Postcard today is from Fishbourne in Sussex, lavish mosaics and a Roman palace. David, Fishbourne, it's near Chichester, it's in Sussex. Why did the Romans choose here?
Probably because they had friends here. At the time of the Claudian invasion, this was pro-Roman territory. And indeed, the king of the tribe in this area, a chap with the name of Verica, had actually gone to Rome to seek help from the emperor because of the troublesome tribes to the north. So this would be a good place to come.
Now, it's listed as a Roman palace.
Yes.
Rather than a villa, rather than anything else. We've got lots of villas, we've got lots of bridges, we've got lots of straight Roman roads, fossways, ermine streets and everything else. Why is this a palace, and is it the only one in this country?
Answering the second part first, no, it's not the only one. There's a Governor's Palace in London, underneath Cannon Street Underground Station. Why is this one a palace? Well, I have to say we do try and put it in inverted commas, because we can't be absolutely certain, but we think it was probably occupied by a local client king. King, palace. Certainly it was palatial, it was enormous, and it was exotically decorated with marble and painted walls and mosaic floors. So it was palatial, but if there was a king here, I think it's fair game to call it a palace.
How did they discover it?
Quite by accident, like many of these things. The water company was digging a trench for a main across the field behind the village, and they ran right across what we now know is the northeast corner of the site, and they cut through walls and mosaic floors and drains and all sorts of things. The foreman saw what was happening, stopped the work and called in the archaeologists. They poked around in the trenches and recognised that here was not only something very big, but also very early. First century. That really was quite remarkable. And so that resulted in 9 seasons of excavations on the site under Professor Barry Cunliffe.
We're going to go in there in a minute to see what you've got inside. Is that it now?
As far as excavations are concerned, no, we're still digging. Every summer we're doing more work to the east of the palace, and we've discovered over the last 2 years an amazing military headquarters building. At least that's what we think it is, and everybody seems to agree with us, which has put a completely different complexion on the early military occupation of this site. It was obviously longer lasting and far more important than we'd realised previously.
Well, let's go and look at your mosaic floors.
Right.
Past your happy working garden.
Yes.
What are these funny little trees? They're very small.
Well, that's interesting actually, Russell, because when they excavated this area, they found alternating tree pits and post holes, suggesting some form of tree or shrub against a trellis. Now, we know from the letters of Pliny the Younger that in his gardens he had fruit trees on trellis work, and so we've done the same thing here. He said that he'd added an air of rustic simplicity to an otherwise formal setting, and I'm sure he was right.
Has that water company foreman ever come back to see precisely what he discovered that day?
No, not as far as I know, but I had his nephew in once who was telling me all about it.
And that's it there, isn't it?
And this is it. This is the trench that was dug in 1960, east of 1960. You can see it's cutting through walls and bits of mosaic floor. So it was pretty obvious that there was something big and important here.
Because of those walls,
exactly.
The thickness of them.
Yeah, and they go down about a metre.
How long were the Romans actually in this part of Britain?
They were here altogether until about 410, so from AD 43 to 410. Although they weren't here at Fishbourne that long, they were here until the palace burnt down in the 270s, 280s.
Oh, it burnt down, did it?
Burnt down. A really dramatic fire.
Oh, because you can find out these things, can't you?
Layers of ash and burnt material, yes.
This is set out as it would have been?
Exactly. It's totally bogus. It's a complete reconstruction. There's nothing original in here apart from the walnuts and the oyster shells, but it is all based on good, sound archaeological evidence, either from here at Fishbourne or elsewhere in the Western Empire.
Fishbourne itself, that's more of an Anglo-Saxon settlement by name, isn't it?
The name is, yes, because we don't know what the name was for this place in the Roman period, because sadly, and perhaps surprisingly, we don't have any written records. They just don't survive. I mean, people must have written about it because it's so big and important, but nothing survives, sadly.
Now, as a kid, I used to be taken to Verulamium a lot because I came from Middlesex and you go up to Hertfordshire to St Albans.
Right.
And I recognise this as like Roman central heating.
It is, that's exactly what it is, yes, yes, yes.
Remember.
That's very good, I'm impressed. The nice thing about this is that this represents the last thing to happen on the site before the palace burnt down. And that's somewhere around 270, 280, because they hadn't actually finished building it. And in a way, that's rather good, because it means there's no top on it. We can see mosaic floors anywhere, but here we can actually see an operating hypocaust. Well, it would have been if they'd finished it anyway. There would have been a furnace outside the north wall of the north wing. The hot gases that have come through that flue over there, around the pillars in the central chamber, along the diagonal flues in the corners, and then up stacks of hollow box tiles set into the thickness of the walls. So it would have been a very efficient form of heating. But as I say, before they had a chance to finish it, the whole place burnt down. Could have been careless workmen, I suppose, but I think it's more probable that we had raiding pirates coming up Chichester Harbour. They saw this place totally undefended and they actually sacked it, because nobody appears to have made any effort to live here afterwards. They just robbed away the stonework, and a lot of that, I'm almost sure, would go into the building of the walls around Roman Chichester.
So it wasn't water that came through
No,
here,
no, hot gases, hot flue gases.
Oh, right. A hypocaust, what do you call it?
Hypocaust.
A hypocaust,
Yes.
right. Yes, if it had been water, it would have been a hydrocaust.
It probably would have been,
if
yes.
it had been water. So are there any earlier in Britain?
One, I'm afraid. There's a little piece from extra about that big, which is earlier. But had it not been for that, I could have said happily, these are the earliest mosaics in Britain. Still pretty early, around about AD 75 or thereabouts. Typical of the sort of things that were being produced in Italy at that time. If you've been to Pompeii or Herculaneum or Ostia or Rome, you'll have seen things like this. The same design elements, perhaps in a different order, because I think what was happening, people were going, mosaicists were going around with pattern books and saying to the owners of villas, or in this case a palace, right, which one would you like in your best dining room? You went through and said, I'll have that one, please.
Well, let's go and look at your dining room. Is it anything to do with that glorious sunken one here?
That's the one.
Now, that's funny, isn't it? I mean, this is so eye-catching. This will certainly catch your eye out there, because when I walked into here, my first visit here to Fishbourne, and I looked at this, and it's almost totally, utterly, well, it is intact, isn't it?
That's the staggering thing about it. I mean, when you look, it's one of the highest mosaics, at a higher level than almost any other mosaic here at Fishbourne, and yet it survived almost completely. We are standing more or less slightly higher than the original ground level when the excavation started, so you can see it's not very far down at all.
No. And that dolphin,
Yep.
that would obviously have been some kind of Roman myth.
Yeah, there are lots of myths about boys riding on the backs of dolphins. In this case, it's Cupid, but we also have other marine references like the sea panthers, mythological beasts, and the sea horses, and the scallop shells. So a very marine-orientated mosaic.
In Britain today, how does this figure in the League of Roman Ruins?
Round about top. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
The Manchester United of Roman ruins.